Welcome back to Cooking with Bill. Yep, cook in the rain, cook in the snow, cook in the sunshine. We're just going to be cooking. Today we're going to be cooking up this bad boy. So I hope you're hungry. This is a round tip, a very large cut of beef. Now, a round tip typically is a tougher cut of beef. But again, using the smoker, low and slow, we should be able to make this very tender. Now, because this is more like a steak, we're going to take it to about 130 degrees when it's done. So it's going to be a medium rare. Now, if you like it better than that, leave it in longer. But I find medium rare is a wonderful way to have a steak. This is about a 10-pound round. We have trimmed a little bit of the silver skin off of it. We've also taken a little bit of the fat off, but not much, because again, very lean cut of beef. We didn't want to take much off at all. Took some of the McCormicks seasoning and put it all over the meat. Last night we put it in the refrigerator uncovered, so we wanted to dry out a little bit before we actually started to cook it. Oftentimes they would want you to take some sea salt and put the sea salt all over it first. That'll draw out some of that moisture of the beef, and then it'll rehydrate with the salt. So it'll actually take that liquid that it's produced and put it back down into the meat. We've got a Traeger here. We're going to set it up. I'm using their signature blend. It's pretty much all I use anymore, although you could use a hickory or even an oak would be quite good with this piece of meat. For a 10-pound roast, it's probably going to take about 5 to 6 hours. If you're doing a standard roast that you get at a grocery store, they're usually about 5 pounds. And you could expect that to be done between 3.5 and 4.5 hours, depending on your smoker and your conditions. The important thing is, when you're getting to that later stage, put a probe in, be able to tell what temperature it is so you don't overcook your meat. Okay, nothing worse than a dry piece of meat. There have been some people that have discussed whether you should brine your meat. Brining could be anywhere from a liquid brine, where you actually immerse the meat into a brine. Injection is more frequent, so they would mix up some type of solution using maybe a beef stock or a consomme. They would add in various spices, like possibly some smoked paprika, some garlic, some ginger, some onion, different powders mixed with the liquids. Often, again, an apple cider apple juice is used in a mixture that you're going to inject. Some people actually inject fat, so they'll get liquefied bacon fat, and they'll inject that into the meat just to give that extra fat to the meat. The other side is it doesn't do a whole lot of difference. So we're actually going with that one today. We're going to put this on the smoker. Now, what we did is what's considered a dry brine, which is just a rub. So that heavy salt mixed in with the McCormicks, let it soak into the meat. Now, this is a big chunk of meat, so you don't have to be afraid of how much you're putting on. Again, to your taste. If you don't like salt or can't have salt, you can wash it off. So you can brine the meat overnight with a salt brine, then wash it off, pat dry, then put on your seasonings, and then pretty much you've gotten rid of a lot of the salt that would be on your meat. We've had the Traeger on for about 15 minutes or so. You want to get rid of that initial purple smoke that it makes. That's just the initial burning. And then we're going to take this giant piece of meat. We're going to center it up in the Traeger. Even threw on some doggy bits here that I'd carved off last night that looked like meat. We're going to set the Traeger to 225. Now you can do this 225 to 250. Somewhere in that range will be a good cooking temperature. But again, this big a piece of meat, probably going to take around 6 hours. We'll check it at about 4, see how the meat's doing. We'll probe it in a bunch of different spots. You don't want raw beef, but 130, 135 is a medium rare. That's where I like to eat it. That's what we're going to end up with. So we'll be back in about 6 hours. I'm gonna go have coffee. Got a nice little half umbrella over my Traeger. It'll keep it dry during the rain. Okay, it's been about 7 hours, a little longer than we expected. When I put this on this morning, we figured about 6 hours ought to do it, but at 6 hours it was about 125 degrees, maybe a little less. We wanted this to get up to at least 130, 135 of that medium rare type of meat that we would like to have. And so left it on for about another hour, did an instant probe at a number of different areas, and indeed it got up to the 135. Now what we're doing right now, we've taken it inside. As you can see, it has a wonderful color to it. You can see it has all the herbs and stuff of using that McCormicks seasoning. And we're going to let this rest for about 15-20 minutes before I cut into it. Hopefully everything is cooked all the way through. First time I've done a 10-pounder, so it's going to be interesting for both of us. So we'll be back in just a little bit and show you what it looks like. Okay, so we've let this set for about 10-15 minutes. Let's cut into it and see what we get. Now look at that. That beautiful color. Very juicy. Looks like it's cooked all the way through. Let's take a little piece off of this. That's extremely good. Again, this particular cut of beef is not necessarily the most tender cut that you can go for. But when you cook it low and slow like this, it's a good way to go. This whole roast is about $40. You can feed a lot of people with it. They're going to be very happy with it. Hey Deb, want to taste? She needs a minute. Okay, that's all I need to hear is that she just needs a minute. So, again, cooking with Bill. This is a round tip roast, about 10 pounds.
Oh my God.
We went ahead and seasoned it with a sea salt and then used the McCormick's steak blend put on here. We set it overnight so that it could absorb those flavors. About 7.5 hours on the smoker at about 225. Let it rest a bit and it is wonderful. So if you've been watching Cooking with Bill, that's great. Subscribe, like us, share us on Facebook, give us comments. We always love to hear it. And we'll see you back in the kitchen.